She crawled under the biker's table, trembling, begging him not to tell. Seconds later, her billionaire stepfather stormed in with bodyguards, demanding her back. What the bikers found in her backpack would bring an empire to its knees, and the little girl who came for shelter became the one thing they'd protect at any cost. The steam rising from Logan Cross's coffee vanished the instant the diner door burst open. Not with a chime, but like a warning shot. He didn't even glance up. 20 years leading the Iron Reapers had trained him to recognize the sound of danger before he ever saw it. This wasn't the weary shuffle of a traveler. This was fear on 2 feet. From the corner of his vision, he caught a flicker of motion, small, fast, and low to the ground. A blur of shadow skidded between tables and disappeared beneath his booth. Tiny hands clutched his boot, trembling. A whisper barely reached his ears. "Please, don't tell him I'm here." Across from him, Jax froze mid-bite, his burger forgotten. Tank straightened in his seat, his massive frame blocking half the neon light. The laughter at the table died in an instant. Logan slowly lowered a hand beneath the table. A small freezing palm pressed into his. "Easy," he murmured, steady but gentle. Nobody's saying a word. Then, headlights, bright and surgical, sweeping across the diner windows. A black Aston Martin slid into the lot, quiet as a blade, deadly as intent. The engine cut off. 3 seconds later, the door opened. Victor Hale didn't enter places. He claimed them. Sharp suit, silver at the temples, a face sculpted by power and habit. 2 bodyguards flanked him, earpieces gleaming. The chatter inside the diner dissolved. "Good evening," he said, voice smooth as glass. "I'm looking for my stepdaughter. 10 years old, dark hair, frightened. She ran off near the highway." Nora, the waitress who'd been serving Logan's crew for years, wiped her hands on her apron. "Sorry, sir. Haven't seen any kids tonight." "Stepdaughter," Hale corrected, flashing a photo. "Her name's Arya. She's unwell. She needs to come home." Under the table, the poor girl's grip tightened on Logan's fingers. Something cold coiled inside his chest. An instinct older than logic. The man's tone was too clean, too rehearsed. Hale's gaze landed on the Reaper's table. Logan took a slow sip of coffee, unbothered. Around him, the others shifted subtly. Calm, but ready. "You boys see a little girl?" Hale asked, stepping closer. "Been here an hour," Logan replied evenly. "Only thing that's walked in is bad weather." One of Hale's men whispered in his ear. The billionaire's jaw clenched. "She's sick," he said. "Without her medicine, she could..." "Could what?" Tank interrupted, voice low, dangerous. "Drop dead right here." "I don't appreciate your tone," Hale snapped. "And I don't appreciate suits ruining dinner," Tank shot back. Logan raised a hand, silencing him. "If we see a lost kid, we'll call it in." "Fair enough?" Hale stared at him for a long, assessing moment. Then he slipped a card onto the table. $10,000 if you find her. Victor Hale, Hale Industries. "And gentlemen," his eyes hardened, "interfering with parental rights is a serious offense. I'd hate for this to get complicated." The air felt thick until his car's taillights vanished down the highway. Only then did Logan exhale, pushing his chair back. He looked down. 2 wide brown eyes stared up from the shadows. Frightened, yes, but not broken. Sharp. A survivor's eyes. "He's gone," Logan said quietly. The poor girl didn't move. "Come on out, little one. You're safe now." She crawled out slowly, clutching a dusty pink backpack. Her jeans were torn, her hair tangled, but her expression was steady. Far too calm for someone so young. "Thank you for lying," she said softly. Jax blinked. "Wasn't a lie. Didn't see you come in. Boots must have been in the way." A faint smile touched her lips. "My name's Arya," she said, "and my stepdad wants to kill me." The words fell like a blade across the room. Then she unzipped her backpack and pulled out a small thumb drive wrapped in a pink ribbon. A note was taped to it, written in a child's hand. "Mommy said, if anything happens, give this to someone brave." Outside, thunder rumbled across the desert. But inside that neon diner, staring at the poor girl clutching her mother's last message, Logan Cross knew one thing for sure. The real storm had already begun. Nora brought her hot chocolate without being asked. The poor girl held the cup with both hands, though she didn't drink. "How long you been running?" Logan asked gently. "Since the funeral," Arya whispered. 3 days ago, Mommy's funeral." The bikers drew their chairs closer, forming a quiet wall around her. "I'm sorry about your mom," Logan said. Arya nodded. "She got sick fast. The doctor said it was her heart, but..." She hesitated. "He smiled at the funeral. Victor. When everyone cried, he smiled." Tank muttered a curse under his breath. "That's when I remembered what Mommy said." Arya clutched her backpack like armor. She gave me this 2 weeks before she died. Told me to hide it. The thumb drive glimmered faintly under the diner light. A metallic V was etched into the casing, its lines shaped like circuitry. Jax's fork hit his plate. That's Hale Industries tech, he muttered. Board-level encryption. Nobody outside the execs has one. How do you know? Tank asked. Because I used to build their engines, Jax said, jaw tight. Until Hale bought us out and gutted the place. 300 jobs gone on Christmas Eve. Called it streamlining. Arya's eyes widened. You're the man with the dragon tattoo, she said softly. Mommy had your picture in her desk. She said she had to fire good people. She cried about it. Jax's face broke for just a heartbeat before he looked away. Your mom was Helen Hale, Logan said quietly. Helen Park, the poor girl corrected. She never took his name. Victor hated that. Logan turned the tiny thumb drive over in his palm. Every instinct told him it was trouble. What did she tell you about this? She called it insurance, Arya murmured, twisting the pink ribbon. Said if something happened to her, this would explain why. She made me memorize a password but never said what was inside. And he knows you have it? Logan asked. Arya nodded. He searched my room after the funeral. Ripped open my toys, threw my books across the floor. When I asked why, he grabbed my arm. She pushed up her sleeve. Finger-shaped bruises stained her pale skin. I took something that belonged to him. Tank's chair screeched back against the floor. That son of... Easy, Logan said, his voice turning to steel. He looked back at the poor girl. That's when you ran? She nodded again. When he fell asleep, I took the money Mom hid, $67, and tried to reach my aunt in Nevada, but he found me at a gas station. I ran into the desert and saw your bike's lights. Smart kid, Tiny said, shaking his head. Shortest run I've seen with the biggest guts. My mom was smart too, Arya whispered. Her voice cracked for the first time. She told me what to do if I was ever in danger. Find people with kind eyes. You have kind eyes, Mr. Cross. Logan wasn't used to that word. Kind. He looked around at his crew. Tank, the ex-soldier still haunted by wars no one remembered. Jax, the engineer corporate greed had chewed up and spat out. Tiny, who once buried a sister stolen by traffickers. Snake, whose scars told stories he never spoke. They were men the world had broken and taught to fight back. And now a 10-year-old poor girl with bruises and a dead mother's secrets had asked them to fight again. We should call the cops, Snake muttered, but even he sounded unsure. And say what? Jack snapped. That a billionaire's chasing his stepdaughter? He'll show up with lawyers before we hang up. He's got custody papers, PR teams, the whole machine. He's right, Logan said. Money buys silence. We need to see what's on that drive before we move. Arya's eyelids drooped. Exhaustion was finally claiming her after 3 days of running on fear. Listen up, Logan said, lowering his voice. We keep her safe tonight. Tomorrow we figure out the rest. And if he comes back? Tank asked. Logan's smile was thin. Then he learns why nobody crosses the Iron Reapers. He turned to Arya, softening his tone. There's a couch in the back office. Lock on the door. Not fancy, but it'll do. The poor girl glanced at the rough men around her, all leather, scars, and weary eyes, and for the first time since she'd crawled under that table, she smiled. Thank you, she whispered. Nora led her to the back. Logan stared at the thumb drive, heavier than metal should feel. Whatever's on there, Jack said quietly. It scared a dying woman enough to hide it. Yeah, Logan muttered, slipping it into his pocket. And it's worth killing a child for. Outside, the desert storm finally broke, rain hammering the diner's roof like a warning. Inside, 5 bikers made a silent vow over a cold cup of coffee and an empty chair. They had just inherited a war, and they wouldn't stop until the poor girl could smile without fear. The next morning, soft dawn spilled through the garage windows, gilding the rows of chrome bikes in amber light. Arya woke to the scent of coffee and the sound of someone absolutely butchering a Johnny Cash tune. She blinked at the worn couch beneath her and remembered. She was safe. For now. The clubhouse was nothing like Victor's marble mansion. Tools hung from pegboards. A dartboard on the wall bore a photo full of holes. Some politician, judging by the tie. Family snapshots lined the shelves. Soldiers, weddings, kids with birthday cakes. Real life. Morning, kiddo, Tank called from the kitchen, a mountain of pancakes in hand. You like chocolate chips? Arya nodded, hunger catching up fast. She couldn't remember her last real meal. They ate at a scarred wooden table that smelled faintly of oil and maple syrup. Tank didn't press her with questions, just kept her plate full. When she finished, Arya glanced at the grease-stained floor. Do you have cleaning stuff? Tank blinked. You don't have to do that. I want to, she said firmly. Mom always said, if someone gives you shelter, you give them service. It's about dignity. Tank's hard face softened. Your mom sounds like she was something special. She was. And then she cleaned. She swept between the motorcycles, sorted tools, and even coaxed the shop's pit bull, Mercy, from beneath a workbench. The dog growled at everyone else but crept into Arya's lap, tail thumping weakly. Tiny watched from the doorway. Well, I'll be damned. That mutt doesn't trust anyone. She's scared, Arya said, stroking the dog's ears. Like me. Scared things recognize each other. Inside Logan's office, the air was heavier. Logan had spent 2 hours cracking the drive's encryption. Surprisingly easy, as if Helen had wanted it found. The password was simple. Arya Flower 2015, a mother's last act of love. When the files opened, Logan's heart sank. You've got to be kidding me, he muttered. What is it? Jax asked, scrolling through public records on his laptop. Everything, Logan said, voice hard. 5 years of corruption. Shell companies, fake charities, payoff ledgers. Hale Industries Foundation, total front. 95% of donations go straight to Victor's accounts. People actually think he's helping communities, Snake said bitterly. He's selling them, Logan shot back, clicking through folders. He opened a video. Victor Hale appeared, all smiles, cutting a ribbon at a new community center. This was Millbrook, Logan said. Remember when the factory closed there? Jax paled. That was supposed to be a voluntary shutdown after the inspection. Nothing voluntary, Logan said. He bribed the council, bought the land for pennies, flipped it to developers for millions. Families ruined. That center never opened. It's a warehouse. Tank entered, holding one of Arya's crayon drawings, bikes with angel wings. His jaw was set. Tell me you found something useful. Better, Logan said. Worker exploitation records. Unpaid hours, safety violations, blacklists. Helen logged everything. He clicked a file. Victor's voice filled the room. Cold, corporate, merciless. I don't care if they're loyal. Loyalty doesn't appear on quarterly reports. Cut the dead weight. If they complain, bury them in legal fees until they starve. More recordings followed. Bribes, threats, ruined lives. She was building a case, Jax whispered. Trying to expose him from the inside. And he killed her for it. Logan closed his eyes. The pieces fit too perfectly. A healthy woman dying of a sudden heart attack, right as she compiled evidence. Another file waited. Personal. He opened it. A letter appeared in neat handwriting. Helen's final words to her daughter. Arya, my flower. If you're reading this, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you myself. Your stepfather is a dangerous man. I was foolish to think I could change him. I've recorded everything. The truth has to matter. Give this to someone brave enough to fight him. I love you always, Mom. The room was silent except for the rain. Logan set the laptop aside. Looks like we're the brave ones now. The date stamped the folder. 2 weeks before she died. Logan clenched his fists until his knuckles went white. In the main room, Arya's laughter cut through the engine oil and cigarette smoke as Tiny guided her hand over a chrome fender. For the first time since she'd arrived, she sounded like a child again, careless and bright. Tank, Mac, Snake, and Tiny lingered in the office doorway, faces worn by too many fights, eyes sharpened by what they'd learned. He destroyed our town, Jack said under his breath. My family, our people. Not was going to, Snake corrected. Still is. He's still looking. Logan looked at each brother in turn. We could hand this to the police. The FBI. Tank barked a laugh that had no humor. How many judges you think he owns? How many chiefs are on his payroll? Look at these ledgers. Senators, contractors, inspectors. This isn't a lawsuit. It's a takeover. Silence fell. Then Logan's voice dropped, deliberate as a blade. Or we handle it ourselves. Old school. Not with brawls. With his own tools, information, reputations, money. We peel his empire apart until there's nowhere left for him to hide. Tiny watched Arya playing with crayons in the corner. That's not just protection, he said softly. That's open war. Logan nodded. Then it's war. He looked toward the main room at the poor girl learning to trust again. Who's in? 5 hands shot up without hesitation. We ride, Logan said. For Helen. For every worker he crushed. For that kid out there who deserves a world without monsters. Outside, the sunlight flashed off chrome like a promise. The Iron Reapers had just declared war on a billionaire. And they believed they would win. The strategy formed over burnt coffee and shaky diner Wi-Fi. Logan spread printouts across the booth like battle maps. Hale has 3 soft spots: PR, logistics, and pension investors, his legacy backers. Hit all three at once, and the whole thing trembles. Mama Joe, the steel-haired owner who'd kept outlaws fed for decades, topped off their cups. Anything you need, you ask. That little poor girl's got a home here as long as she needs it. In a corner booth, Arya practiced letters with patient concentration. Mercy's head rested against her feet. Over 3 days, color had crept back into her cheeks. Mac, you still got trucking contacts? Logan asked. Yeah, my cousin runs a fleet out of Phoenix, Mac grinned. Hale uses contractors to move product. I can get hired. Nobody will know with a beard and a cap. Good. Get on the manifests. Photograph, log, everything. Logan turned to Snake. You were on site crews for 10 years. There's a new plant outside Carson City. Worker complaints are stacking. Get on as a laborer. Record everything. Tank cracked his knuckles. What about me? You stay, Logan said. You and Tiny are Arya's shield. No argument allowed. Tank nodded. And me? Tiny asked. Logan's smile was cold. I'm taking the PR fight. Hale's machine spins lies. Time to hand them something they can't spin. 2 weeks later, cracks appeared. Mac, now Miguel on paper, beard and trucker cap in place, was 3 runs in as a supposed contractor for Hale Logistics. The manifest promised recycled solar panels. What they unloaded told another story. Cheap knockoffs, shipped from sweatshops, e-waste mislabeled and dumped. Miguel pulled into a rest stop, hands trembling as he dialed a burner phone. You're not going to believe this, he whispered to Logan. Panels are counterfeit. Half of them don't work. He's claiming credits for recycling trash. Photos, manifests, a supervisor who told me to keep quiet if I wanted to get paid. Send it to the folder, Logan said. Good work. 3 states away, Snake found something worse. The Carson City site was a death trap. Shoddy beams, electrical work by untrained hands, safety sign-offs that had all the markings of forgery. He recognized a signature from Helen's files, an inspector on Hale's payroll. Quit standing around, the foreman barked. We're 3 weeks behind. Use what you've got. Snake said nothing. He let his body cam roll. That night, an honest county inspector received an anonymous tip. By morning, the site was red-tagged. Meanwhile, Logan played a different role. 2 weeks of casual afternoons at a downtown gym had him benching beside Bradley, Hale's PR director. Brad loved to talk, to be seen with people who mattered. Hale's genius, Brad boasted one day between sets. We've got him lined up for a humanitarian award. Charity work? Logan asked, eyebrows raised. The Hale Foundation. Nicely positioned. Media eats that stuff. Perception is everything. Brad struggled for a rep, grunting. Perception is reality, Logan repeated, smiling and taking notes in his head. 2 days later, an investigative reporter opened an anonymous package. Ledgers, transfer records, bank trails showing how donations flowed into offshore accounts instead of communities. The exposé hit like lightning, viral within hours. Humanitarian hero or corporate con, splashed on every feed. Back at Mama Joe's, Arya made something small and fierce, notes. She spread papers and crayons and wrote messages to each of the bikers. Careful, earnest letters that would be delivered with their checks. Dear Mr. Cross, be safe today. Mama Joe taught me pancakes. Dear Mac, Mercy learned a trick. Dear Tank, thank you for chess. Tank kept every scrap in his vest pocket, reading them when he thought no one watched. The men, who'd hardened into armor over the years, found themselves softening at the sight of her crooked crayon letters. Every time doubt crept in, the notes pulled them back. This wasn't just revenge, it was saving a childhood. In his penthouse, Victor Hale watched alerts cascade across his screen. Stocks dipped, contracts frayed, journalists wanted answers, inspectors closed sites. His empire, the hand-polished facade he used to charm donors and reporters, was splitting at the seams. And somewhere a poor girl held the evidence that could bury him. He clicked the intercom. Garrett, the head of security, a former operative with a blank conscience, snapped to attention. Find the girl, Hale said cold. I don't care what it costs. Find her and remove anyone protecting her. The hunt escalated. The Reaper's first safe house went up in flames on a damp Tuesday. Dutch, a retired hawk who'd offered his farmhouse, had barely had time to shout the alarm. Tank scooped Arya into his arms and ran as black SUVs cut across the yard. They were learning fast. Hale would not retreat. Neither would they. Mercy barked wildly, claws scraping the tile as Tank sprinted through the smoke, Arya clutching his waist. Torque was already revving his bike out back, headlights cutting through the night. They tore through the kitchen door seconds before the front exploded inward. Grayson's men flooding the farmhouse with gunfire and flashlights. Behind them, fire devoured the wooden walls. Arya looked back once, tears streaking through soot. The message was clear. No refuge would last. Logan got the call while tailing one of Hale's executives in Phoenix. His chest tightened at the sound of Tank's voice. They found us. Where? The farmhouse. We're moving to Sedona, but boss, they weren't trying to take her this time. They tried to burn us alive. Stay mobile, Logan ordered, already throwing his gear in the saddlebag. His voice stayed steady, but his hands trembled. Hale had crossed the last line. He wasn't protecting secrets anymore. He was hunting. The next 3 weeks blurred into exhaustion and asphalt. Arya learned to sleep sitting upright, to pack her small bag in under a minute, to never ask where they were heading. Fear had carved away the childlike spark in her eyes. They hid in 12 safe houses, truck stops, biker garages, even a forgotten church basement where a priest offered sanctuary and silence. Each time they stayed barely ahead of Grayson's squads, sometimes by hours, sometimes by minutes. Snake nearly got cornered on a construction site outside Reno, forced to flee mid-shift, as armed men questioned workers about a little girl, and a mechanic who asks too many questions. Jax's trucking cover collapsed. When Hale started running background checks on all drivers, before disappearing, he slipped his last load of evidence into a reporter's hands. Photos, manifests, everything. Meanwhile, Victor Hale's empire was crumbling from within. Vortex Industries' stocks had plunged 37% in 3 weeks. News anchors who once praised his innovation now recited lists of crimes: labor abuse, environmental fraud, fake charities. In his tower, Hale stood before a floor-to-ceiling window, watching his reflection blur into the city lights. He looked older, thinner, like his greed was consuming him from the inside. "She's a child, Victor," his attorney had warned. "Walk away, take the financial hit, restructure." But Hale couldn't. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about control, about the humiliation of being undone by a 10-year-old and a handful of outlaws. Even in death, Helen was haunting him, using her daughter as a weapon. "Sir." Grayson appeared in the doorway. "We traced them to northern Arizona, a diner called Mama June's. Local tip says the girl's been spotted there multiple times." Hale's lips curled. "Then it ends tonight." That night, Arya sat in the back office of Mama June's, coloring with dull crayons. Her drawings all looked the same now. A girl riding a winged motorcycle, flying away from a dark fortress. "Hey, kiddo." Logan leaned in the doorway. His tone was soft, the first warmth she'd heard in days. "You hanging in there?" Arya didn't look up. "We're leaving again soon, aren't we?" "Probably, but maybe not for long. We're trying to—" "Don't lie." Her voice was steady. Too steady for a 10-year-old. "I heard Tank talking to Torque. They're getting closer. We're running out of places." Logan crouched beside her. The way she held herself, quiet, contained, broke him a little. "Arya," he said gently, "look at me." When she did, the fear was naked. "You've got more courage than half the soldiers I've known," he said. "And they were grown men with medals and scars. You're just a kid, but you keep fighting." "I don't feel brave," she whispered. "I feel scared all the time. I just want my mom. I want this to stop. I know." He swallowed hard. "You want to know why we're still doing this? Why we didn't hand you over and walk away?" She nodded, small and silent. "Because you thanked us when we lied to your stepdad. Because you clean without being asked. Because you make a vicious dog trust people again. Because if we can't protect one good kid from one evil man, then we've already lost what matters." Her tears came quietly this time. She threw her arms around his neck, and Logan held her, the way you hold a promise you can't afford to break. "We're going to win this," he whispered into her hair. "I swear, Arya, you'll be free." In the main diner, the phone rang. Mama June answered, and her weathered face went pale. "Logan," she called, breathless. "Sheriff's office just called. 8 black SUVs heading this way. They're asking about a little girl." Logan was on his feet before she finished. "How long?" 10 minutes, maybe less." Arya already had her backpack slung over her shoulder. "I'm ready," she said softly. Outside, engines roared. The Iron Reapers lined up their bikes. Mercy leapt into Tank's sidecar, but this time they weren't running. "Everyone remember the plan?" Logan's voice crackled through the comms. Affirmations came back. "Good. Tonight we finish it." Headlights sliced the darkness as the SUVs circled the diner like predators. Grayson stepped out first, suit pressed, eyes cold, with 8 armed men fanning out behind him. Through the windows, he saw the Reapers sitting calmly at the counter, coffee steaming. "Too calm. Spread out," Grayson ordered. "We need the girl alive. The rest, expendable." He entered, bell chiming. Mama June didn't flinch. "Help you?" she asked dryly. "We're looking for a child," he said. 10 years old. Brown hair? Been seen here?" Lots of travelers come through. Can't say I remember every kid. Grayson's jaw tightened. His men began checking rooms. Logan sat at a corner table, flipping through a newspaper like this was just another Tuesday. "You're interfering with family business," Grayson said, voice low. "Mr. Hale only wants his daughter returned safely." Logan looked up with an easy smile. "That so? Since when do families send kill squads for bedtime stories?" Grayson slammed his hand on the table. "Where is she? Who?" Logan asked mildly. Then Grayson noticed something. Every biker in the diner glanced at their watches. "Perfectly synchronized. 3, Tank muttered. 2. 1. 300 miles away, in a Phoenix ballroom glittering with chandeliers, Victor Hale took the stage at a corporate gala. Cameras flashed. Politicians smiled. "Tonight," he announced, "represents not just Vortex's future, but our promise." And then, the screens behind him flickered, the lights dimmed, and the giant screen behind Magnus Vale flickered like a dying signal. He paused at the podium, smiling tightly at the murmuring crowd. "Minor technical glitch," he said smoothly, raising a hand. Just a moment, but the screen didn't go dark. It came alive. There she was, Elena Vale sitting in her study, the timestamp burned across the corner. 2 weeks before her death. "My name is Elena Parkin," her voice echoed. "And I'm recording this because I believe my husband, Magnus Vale, intends to kill me." Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Magnus's face drained of color. "Turn it off," he barked. Now, but no one could. The system was hijacked. Elena's voice continued, calm but trembling with truth. "For 3 years, I've watched my husband destroy lives for profit. The Vale Foundation is a fraud. 95% of its donations are laundered offshore. His factories use forced labor, including children." The visuals shifted. Documents, offshore transfers, hidden ledgers, photos of grim warehouses where exhausted workers assembled electronics under broken lights. He bribed inspectors, buried whistleblowers, burned communities for quarterly profit. When I tried to leave, he silenced me. The video cut to audio clips, Magnus's own voice growling through speakers. "I don't care about regulations. If workers die, we settle. It's cheaper than safety." The ballroom froze. Guests looked at one another, horror creeping in. Then another voice came through, Rylan Kane's, firm and unwavering. "Magnus Vale, you built your empire on broken backs. You killed your wife to protect your lies. You hunted a poor girl, your stepdaughter, to keep her quiet. But tonight, the world hears the truth." The screen flashed images. The bruised arm of the poor girl. The charred remains of a farmhouse. The faces of the bikers who'd risked their lives to keep her alive. "You don't own the road anymore." "The people do!" Panic erupted. Investors stormed toward the exits. Journalists filmed everything, flashes turning the ballroom into chaos. Magnus shouted over the noise. "It's fabricated, lies!" But in the crowd, law enforcement agents were already making calls. The SEC director lifted a phone. The Phoenix police chief moved toward the stage. The screen faded to black, replaced by white text. "The road belongs to the honest." Back at Mama Joe's diner, Gareth's phone buzzed with non-stop alerts. He read the headlines, his face paling. Rylan rose from his seat. "It's over," he said quietly. "By morning your boss will be broke, disgraced, and probably in custody. The poor girl is safe, somewhere you'll never reach." Gareth lowered his gun. "You have no idea what you've started." Rylan's reply was ice calm. "Oh, I know exactly. We tore down a monster." More notifications hit Gareth's screen. Vale Industries stock suspended. Board resignations. Federal charges filed. He exhaled slowly. "Stand down," he told his men. The SUVs pulled away, their engines fading into the desert. Outside, Boone clapped Rylan on the shoulder. "Where is she really?" Rylan smiled faintly. "Exactly where I said. Safe." Cut to a small cabin deep in the Montana woods. The poor girl sat between Mac and Strider, watching the news on an old TV. She saw Magnus Vale being led away in cuffs, crowds outside his headquarters holding signs calling her mother a hero. "Your mom did good, kid," Mac said softly. Tears filled her eyes, but they weren't from sorrow anymore. "Can I go home now?" she whispered. Strider nodded. "Yeah, sweetheart, you're going home." The Empire had fallen. The poor girl was free. 6 weeks later, the Steel Ravens clubhouse glowed with sunlight through newly replaced windows. Fresh paint warmed the walls. A soft desert orange the poor girl had chosen herself. Her crayon drawings lined the wall. Motorcycles with wings, angels in leather jackets, a child holding hands with 5 bikers. In the corner, Mercy, the rescue dog, snored in a glitter-covered bed labeled Queen. Boone whistled low as Rylan welded in the garage. You sure about this, boss? Rylan didn't look up. Sparks danced across the metal. I promised her, didn't I? When Boone saw what he was building, he couldn't help but grin. A miniature motorcycle, scaled perfectly for the poor girl. Painted silver, with purple flames licking the sides. She's gonna lose her mind, Strider said, buffing the handlebars. That's the point, Rylan smiled. She deserves something built with care. The garage door slid open. Mama Jo stepped in, the poor girl beside her, bacon crumbs on her fingers. Someone here to see you boys, Mama Jo teased. The poor girl froze. Her eyes widened. Is that mine? All yours, Rylan said. She touched the seat, the painted wings, the tiny bell. It's beautiful, she whispered. Read the side, Mac urged. On the tank, in silver script, chrome wings. We named it after your drawing, Rylan said gently. Her smile trembled through tears. Can I really ride it? Sure can, Boone said, holding up a matching helmet. Your mom would insist on this first. She took it reverently. Inside were 5 signatures. Rylan. Boone, Mac, Strider, Tiny, we're always riding with you, Tiny said, his voice thick. She hugged the helmet to her chest and ran into Rylan's arms. Thank you. You earned it, he said. You saved yourself. We just helped you get there. That Saturday, the Ravens gathered outside for her first test ride. Her tiny engine hummed to life, purring beside Rylan's full-sized bike. Around the lot she went, purple jacket gleaming, laughter echoing. Again, she shouted, circling faster, free at last. Boone wiped his eyes. Damn dust, he muttered. Strider chuckled. Sure, old man. Dust. They all felt it. The quiet joy of seeing a terrified child turn into a fearless rider. That night, as stars burned above the desert, Mac opened his laptop. We've got over 700 grand in donations, he said in disbelief. People all over the country sending money after hearing her story. They want to help, Jackson said quietly, glancing at the group gathered in the dimly lit living room. Help what? Asked Mira, sitting cross-legged on the couch, the poor girl's head resting in her lap. Jackson paused, studying her. That's what we need to figure out. We've got a second chance now. Resources, trust, a platform. The question is, what do we build with it? Mira sat silently for a moment, her young face steady but thoughtful. There are other kids like me, she said finally. Scared kids, ones who don't have anyone. Go on, Jackson encouraged. Maybe we could help them, she continued, voice small but growing stronger. Give them somewhere safe. Teach them like you taught me. Mommy always said, she hesitated, then looked up. She said, the best way to thank someone who helps you is to help someone else. Around the room, the bikers exchanged quiet glances. A foundation, murmured Cole, the group's level-headed mechanic. For kids who need a way out. Training, safety, shelter. Education too, added Troy, his deep voice thoughtful. Show them how to stand tall. Teach them real-life stuff. Skills, Bear chimed in. Something to make them proud. A moment of silence followed. Then Hawk, their quiet strategist, leaned forward. We'll call it Silver Horizon Foundation, because horizons mean tomorrow. And silver, that's strength. Every kid deserves both. Mira's eyes widened. Really? You'd name it after my bike? Jackson smiled faintly. Not your bike, your dream. The one that kept you alive when the world tried to break you. Within a week, the paperwork was done. The Silver Horizon Foundation was born. A partnership between battle-scarred bikers and a 10-year-old who believed broken wings could heal. Its mission statement was part legal jargon, part child's handwriting. To give wings to those who forgot they could fly. Mira became the honorary founder. She attended meetings, designed the logo, a motorcycle crowned with silver wings, and insisted on interviewing new staff herself. Do you really like kids? She'd ask, eyes narrowing with seriousness beyond her age. Not just for the job, for real? Anyone who talked down to her didn't last 5 minutes. Soon, the local news caught wind of it. The headline read, 10-year-old survivor launches foundation to help lost kids find home. When a reporter asked what she wanted to say to other frightened children, the poor girl looked directly into the camera and said, voice steady, find someone with kind eyes, and don't give up. You're stronger than you think. 2 months after the Silver Horizon Foundation opened its doors, the first call came in. A teenage boy, 16, alone and forgotten, had aged out of foster care with nowhere to go. Send him over, Jackson said without hesitation. Cole, the quiet mechanic, handed the boy a wrench. You break it, you fix it, he muttered. But behind the gruffness, he taught the kid everything he knew. Then came a girl escaping violence, then a pair of siblings left behind by incarceration, and then more, faces filled with fear, hope, and longing. Each one found what the poor girl had once prayed for: safety, family, and a reason to believe again. The Steel Ravens clubhouse began to change. Half of it still smelled of grease and gasoline, but the other half came alive with color. Classrooms, counseling rooms, a bustling kitchen where Mama Ruth taught her new students how to make food from scratch and love every messy second of it. On one wall, a mural grew, dozens of drawings made by every child who passed through. Wings, engines, silver motorcycles. Each line told a story of flight after fear. "We built something good," Bear said one night, watching the poor girl teach a smaller child how to clean a motorcycle chain. "No," Jackson replied softly. "She built something good. We just gave her the tools." Laughter filled the air. Engines roared beside the sound of children's voices, and under the flicker of fluorescent lights, the little silver motorcycle, Silver Horizon, gleamed like a promise waiting for dawn. Outside, spring returned to Arizona, carrying wildflowers and second chances. 8 months later, the Steel Ravens gathered again. But this time, it wasn't just another memorial ride. It was a celebration of everything they'd built. In the garage, Lena tightened the strap on her purple helmet, flames still gleaming from last year. She'd grown taller, her eyes brighter. "You ready?" Jackson asked, checking her bike one last time. She smirked. "Born ready," the others laughed. She'd picked up their tough talk, but inside she was still the same kind-hearted kid who fed strays and wrote thank-you notes for everything. "Where are we going?" she asked, mounting her bike. "Somewhere special," Jackson replied. She nodded without a second thought. That trust said everything. 15 motorcycles roared to life, rolling across the sunburnt highways. They passed the old diner where it all began. Sally, the waitress, waved from the window. Lena waved back, her grin pure sunlight. The Silver Horizon Foundation had transformed their reputation. No longer outlaws, they were guardians, builders, a family forged in redemption. At a dusty rest stop, Bear bought Lena a blue raspberry snow cone. Tiny scrolled through his phone and showed her a photo. Her former stepfather, Victor Hale, in handcuffs, head down, surrounded by cameras. The trial had been fast. The evidence undeniable. Fraud, exploitation, conspiracy. 42 years behind bars. Tiny asked softly, "You feel bad for him?" Lena thought for a long moment. "I feel bad for who he could have been," she said. "Mom said he wasn't always cruel. Something just broke inside him. But I'm glad he can't hurt anyone anymore." Tiny smiled. "Your mom would be proud of you." "I know," Lena whispered. "I talk to her sometimes. Tell her about the kids we're helping. About Mercy catching frisbees. I think she hears me." By sunset, the convoy reached a high desert ridge. The sky burned in orange and violet. There, a small memorial stood, flowers, candles, and a bronze plaque. She gave everything so others could be free. Lena approached slowly, clutching a handful of wildflowers. "I brought my friends, Mom," she said softly. "We stopped him. And now we're helping other kids, just like you wanted." Her voice broke. "I miss you, but I'm okay now. I promise." She laid the flowers at the memorial, purple and yellow, her mother's favorites. When she turned back, her eyes were wet, but her smile was fearless. "Can we ride the highway now?" she asked. "That's the plan," Jackson said. Engines started. 15 motorcycles and one little silver bike lined up as the sun touched the horizon. The desert wind carried their roar. Lena's laughter rang out across the valley, free, alive, unbroken. In his mirror, Jackson saw her, no longer the frightened poor girl who hid under a table, but a young woman who'd found her wings. "We never meant to destroy a billionaire," he thought. "We just wanted to protect one child. But saving her saved us all." They hadn't just torn down an empire. They had built a home. One that turned pain into purpose, and mercy into strength. 3 years later, the Hale Technologies Tower stood abandoned on Phoenix's edge. Windows shattered, weeds cracked the marble steps. Nature had begun to reclaim what greed had stolen. But on its tallest wall, in gleaming silver paint maintained by unseen hands, the world could read, "The road belongs to the honest." And just below, smaller but brighter, Silver Horizon Foundation, giving flight to the grounded. Drivers who passed by slowed to look. Some remembered the story of a poor girl who stood up to power, of bikers who chose compassion over crime, and of a mother who told the truth, knowing it might cost her everything. They remembered that empires built on lies always fall, that mercy still matters. and that every child deserves someone with kind eyes, someone who refuses to look away. The road belonged to the honest now, and it always would.